Latanya Mims. I'm a Transportation Specialist in the Enforcement Division at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
And I'm Chad Lagerway, a Safety Investigator out of the Washington State Division Office.
During this presentation, the following topics will be discussed: what personal conveyance is, why FMCSA revised the guidance, the motor carriers and drivers' responsibilities, ELDs and personal conveyance, and at the conclusion of this presentation, we'll discuss proper and improper use of personal conveyance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Personal conveyance is the movement of a commercial motor vehicle for personal use while a driver is off duty. It is important to keep in mind that in order to operate under personal conveyance, the driver must be off duty, meaning the driver is relieved from work and all responsibility for performing work by the motor carrier. Now, Chad will go over the change to the guidance and the motor carrier's responsibility. Take it away, Chad.
The revision of this guidance is intended to improve flexibility and ensure consistent application among industry and law enforcement. The revised guidance includes a list of proper and improper use of personal conveyance and emphasizes that a vehicle can operate as personal conveyance when laden, a provision that was prohibited for the past 20 years. The focus of this revision to the personal conveyance guidance is the intent of the movement. Does the movement of the vehicle contribute to the motor carrier's operational readiness, and is the movement personal in nature? Later in this presentation, we will apply the focus of the revision to some examples of proper use of personal conveyance and improper use of personal conveyance. While not required, if a motor carrier chooses to allow their drivers to operate their commercial motor vehicles under personal conveyance, then they can develop a company policy that either reflects FMCSA's guidance or apply more restrictive guidance such as distance restrictions or laden restrictions. Motor carriers and drivers should keep in mind that operating under personal conveyance does not relieve them from the responsibility of operating the commercial motor vehicle safely. I'm going to turn it back over to Latanya.
Thanks, Chad. So now we're going to go over the driver's responsibility. Drivers are required to record any time operating as personal conveyance on their record of duty status. This can be done in a couple of different ways, which we will discuss in the next slide. As mentioned earlier, the driver is not relieved from the responsibility of operating the vehicle safely, and the driver must comply with the hours of service rules. This includes driving while fatigued. What this means is that if a driver is too tired to operate a commercial motor vehicle, regardless of the number of hours of service he or she has, then the driver should not operate said commercial vehicle. If the driver is subject to the ELD rule, then the driver has the option of using the personal conveyance feature on the ELD. The motor carrier must enable this feature before a driver can use it. If a carrier allows a driver to use the commercial motor vehicle for personal conveyance but opts out of the ELD personal conveyance feature, then the driver must make an annotation on the ELD at the beginning and end of the personal conveyance on the off-duty line. Earlier in this presentation, the focus of the revised personal conveyance was mentioned. Keeping those elements in mind, these next couple of slides will discuss the proper use and improper use of personal conveyance. This first example of proper use of personal conveyance illustrated on this slide is a common issue. The movement of a commercial motor vehicle from a shipper or receiver to a place to obtain required rest after the driver has exhausted their hours of service can be identified as personal conveyance if and only if the driver stops at the first available rest stop to obtain the required restorative rest. Time spent traveling from a driver's en route lodging, such as a motel or truck stop, to restaurants and entertainment facilities is proper use of personal conveyance. And commuting can be identified as personal conveyance if it is to and from a driver's terminal from his or her residence, between trailer drop lots and driver's residence, and between work sites and his or her residence. This slide identifies improper use of personal conveyance. While the revised guidance allows drivers to drive from a shipper or receiver to a place to obtain rest after the driver has exhausted their hours of service, the driver must use the first available rest stop. The driver cannot bypass rest stops to get to one that is closest to the next dispatch location. Deadheading cannot be identified as personal conveyance, as the movement contributes to a motor carrier's operational readiness, and it is not personal in nature, but at the request of the motor carrier. So we hope you found this presentation helpful in understanding the revised personal conveyance guidance from FMCSA. This concludes our presentation. Should you have any questions, please visit the Personal Conveyance webpage or email the provided email address on this slide. Thanks for listening.
Let's review some frequently asked questions. Question number 1. Can a driver who drops his or her last load off at a customer's site use personal conveyance to return back to their normal working location? The answer is no. Returning back to your branch or your terminal from a dispatch trip is a continuation of the trip and therefore cannot be considered personal conveyance. Question number 2. The guidance allows for authorized use of a commercial motor vehicle to travel home after working at an off-site location. What is meant by the term off-site when used in this context? The term refers to a location other than the carrier's branch or a shipper's or receiver's facility, where a driver works for a temporary period for a particular job. Specifically, this term is intended for construction and utility companies that set up base camps near a major job and operate there for days or weeks at a time. These remote locations are considered off-site locations. Therefore, travel between home and that off-site location is considered commuting time and qualifies as personal conveyance. Question number 3. Is personal conveyance treated any differently when the driver is hauling hazardous materials? No. There are no restrictions on personal conveyance regarding hazardous materials transportation, provided that the driver complies with the DOT Regulation 49 CFR Parts 177 and 397. Question number 4. Can a driver who claims the short haul exemption use personal conveyance? Yes. There is no connection between personal conveyance and the short haul exemption. As always, off-duty time does not extend the 12-hour duty time limitation. Question number 5. How is personal conveyance time calculated in the hours of service rules? Time spent under personal conveyance is off-duty time. Question number 6. May a driver use personal conveyance when they run out of available driving or on-duty hours? No, except for the one exception described in the guidance where a driver who runs out of hours while at a shipper's or receiver's facility may drive from that facility to a nearby safe location to park, and this is provided that the driver allows adequate time to obtain rest in accordance with the daily minimum off-duty periods under the hours of service rules before beginning to drive. Personal conveyance is those times where a driver is operating solely for non-business purpose and cannot be used to extend the duty day. Question number 7. Are there maximum distance time or distance limits for the use of personal conveyance? No. However, it is important to note that the provision in 392.3 of the FMCSRs prohibit the operation of a commercial motor vehicle while fatigued continues to apply. Therefore, a driver must get adequate rest before returning to driving. Question number 8. If a driver picks up the commercial motor vehicle from a repair facility once repairs are complete, would the driver be allowed to use personal conveyance to their residence from the repair shop? No. Travel for repair and maintenance work is being done in the furtherance of the business and is considered on-duty time. Question number 9. Can a loaded vehicle be used as personal conveyance? Yes. Determining personal conveyance is based on the nature of the movement, not whether the vehicle is loaded. Question number 10. Can personal conveyance time be combined with other off-duty time to complete a 10 or 34-hour break? Yes, because personal conveyance is off-duty time. However, it is important to note that the provision in 392.3 of the FMCSRs prohibiting the operation of a commercial motor vehicle while ill or fatigued continues to apply. Question number 11. Can a driver be inspected during personal conveyance? If so, what is the driver's duty status during the inspection? Yes, since the driver is still subject to the FMCSRs, the driver or vehicle can be inspected while on personal conveyance time. The driver's duty status would be on duty, not driving, during the inspection. Thank you for your time today. We hope this helps with the understanding of personal conveyance. If you still have questions, feel free to reach out to your manager, the DOT team, or your EHS manager. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy. Thank you.